If you like interactive card designs, this one will be for you. It's quick and easy to make. You don't need any specific supplies to recreate this card, and also you can use it all year long for any kind of occasion. I've kept mine very simple because I'm gonna add elements to them later, but you can go all in. This is the stamp I'm going to use on my front panel. It's just a dotted stamp. That's the one I'm going to use for both cards for the front panel, the main panel. This panel is 1 centimeter smaller than my card base on both directions. I am just adding some dots on a slightly darker color because I want my sentiment to be the main element. Later, I'm going to add some very thin strips of the same metallic cardstock that I'm using for the sentiment on the top and bottom of this panel. And the way I do that is I use my trusty tea ruler and the thin tip glue bottle. I run a line of glue along the edge of the ruler, and then I put down that strip cardstock. As I said, you can make these for any occasion. You can decorate them however you want. Here are those thin strips that I'm going to use, and here you can see how I do it. Make sure you hold your panel, unlike me, while you're running that so it doesn't move, and you do get a straight line. Sorry that my head gets in the way here. Now you could just use your own dotted pattern paper if you have them. That would be way easier. As I said, I don't like to use that much pattern paper. I like to make my own, but use what's easier for you. This is just what's easier for me with my stash. That panel is now ready. Now I'm gonna move on to the mechanism. Here I'm showing you like a long strip of cardstock. This is the length and the width that I had it in my stash, and I'm gonna use it and make it do for my card. But you could use any length and any width. Well, length I would advise you to start with as long as you can, but the width, it could be any. It doesn't really matter. I am just measuring it because I want to make sure that the width of that strip that is going to be our main mechanism, that it's not bigger than the width of the other panels that we're going to use. You're going to see them later and it's going to make more sense. This is my background panel, the white one, and I marked the center, and I'm making sure that I'm centering that strip, the mechanism strip, and I'm marking the top and bottom. This will give me the place where I need to cut 2 parallel lines, and I'm going to have a very thin strip cut off from the center of the panel. If my mechanism, the strip for the mechanism, is narrower than the other 2 panels, this cut will be hidden behind the 2 panels and no one will see it. So it looks magical in the end because you really cannot see it. Now I've cut the 2 lines and I'm just gonna cut off the top and bottom, and that will give me the space for the mechanism to slide through. I've learned how to make this card idea last year during a craft fair that I went to in my city, and it's a variation on the waterfall cards. This one you only have 2 panels and you don't really have the strip that holds the mechanism in place. You're using this background panel instead. Now you can see something I usually edit out, but I do all the time. I will always constantly check that things will work. So you saw me running that mechanism strip through the slit to make sure that the size is okay, and it is. Now I'm gonna stamp my pull here sentiment on my mechanism strip, and this will actually be the only difference between the 2 cards that we're gonna make. This one, I am doing it on, well, both of them will be on the top edge of my strip, but this one, the sentiment is the normal orientation. The other one, it will be upside down, and you see why later. I'm gonna round those corners and I'm gonna test it again because why not? You can never test it enough. Believe me, I added actually so many other times out of this video, but I can't stop checking and double checking everything. Okay, so here I'm centering my main panel to make sure that I have a nice border all around. I put that sentiment tab just on the edge, after the edge of my panel, and then I marked where the panel meets the mechanism strip. You can see here. I am going to fold along that score, along that mark, and that's going to tell me where I'm going to glue that main panel. And then after that, away from where the sentiment is, I'm gonna score once again 1.5 centimeters after that line. So I'm gonna have 2 lines. I'm gonna show you here in a second, 2 scored lines, and that's where I'm gonna glue my 2 main panels. The bigger one that we that I showed you how I stamped and put the sentiment, and the inner one that will be hidden behind that one that is slightly smaller. Now I don't need this whole strip, so I'm cutting off about an inch from the other end, and I just eyeballed it. I didn't measure anything. I just used my ruler and cut off the width of the ruler. Now here I'm checking my smaller panel, and I can see that I need to cut it shorter than I initially had it. This one was 1 centimeter smaller than the other one, both directions, but I need to cut off 1 centimeter more from the bottom. I'll give you the measurements later for everything. Now I'm just gonna add glue to the first section of my mechanism and then add the smaller panel. And then that tiny space in between the two score lines is where I'm going to adhere the main panel, the bigger one, to. Use your bond folder to spread that glue and press it down, give it a second, and then you can move on to the next one. We're just gonna add glue to the 1.5 centimeter space in between the two scoring lines, and that's the only thing that's gonna hold our main panel together and in place. I might forget to mention this throughout the whole video and every single time I'm gluing something down, but be careful not to add too much glue so it won't ooze out and then end up interfering with your mechanism or sticking down your card in areas that you need them to move. I'm just reinforcing those scoring lines. You can see that my mechanism is fully hidden behind those two panels and it won't be seen from the front. I placed it back through the background panel and now I'm taping it down in place just so I know where to add my glue in the back. I'm going to bring it closer here to the camera and I'm going to show you. So I can't add glue to the tab or to the areas very, very close to the tab, again, because I don't want that glue to ooze out when I press it down. But I'm going to add to this half area to the left of the tab and then the two smaller areas above and below it. And that's all the glue I'm going to add. You could use dry adhesive if you prefer. I do trust liquid adhesive better when I am doing interactive designs. I don't know why, but I've had problems with interactive elements using dry adhesive in the past, so I trust my liquid glues better. This is an extra step, but I'm using my anti-static powder bag on the tab to make it move easier. You don't really need to do it, but I find that it helps. Now I'm just pressing it down. I am going to press down all around, top and bottom, left and right, and then you can see that the two panels are still loose. I am going to show you here one way to do it. I'm just going to add one thin line of glue to the border of my smaller panel. Again, don't add too much glue because it will ooze out and it will mess up your mechanism. Hold it down, press it down, and then give it a minute to dry, and that's it. It's ready. As I said, I'm going to probably add some flowers. Inside of this one, there's a birthday card. I'm going to probably add the name of the birthday person. I can save it this way for whenever I have an occasion that needs a special birthday card, and then I can add my personal message to the inside. You can see that I didn't use dimensional adhesive, but the panel moves freely. Once you pull that tab, the main panel pops up, and you can see the hidden message that I'm gonna add later. To the panel underneath. Now I'll show you how I made the same card in portrait orientation. This is one of the cardstock colors I'm going to use for the second one, and I'll have everything linked down below. Here are all the cardstock pieces we're going to use. I have the measurements here on screen. Feel free to pause it if you need more time to write them down. But as I said before, you can, if you understand how I got those measurements, you can actually adapt it to any card size that you prefer to create. Again, I accidentally made the two cards the same. I wanted to do them landscape orientation, but in the end, I just changed the front. I didn't actually change the orientation of the mechanism, but you can do that too. The idea that I learned, I actually adapted it. So these are my own measurements and this is my own way to make it. And once you understand how I made it, you can do it yourself. So you could just turn around this panel 90 degrees and create the slot up and down. And as long as it's in the center and the size matches, you could use the mechanism going to the side instead of going to the bottom as I'm going to do later. Now here so far, I'm doing everything that I did before. If you notice, my cut is not perfect. It was crooked. And it doesn't matter. No one is going to see it as long as you have that thin slit. If it's a bit crooked or if you cut it kind of messed up or if you cut it a little bit more than you wanted to, no one will see it. It will work the same way. Now I am going to stamp those dots on my front panel again. For both cards, I used a lighter color for the very front panel, the one that is bigger, and I used a slightly darker color to the one inside, the one that is going to be behind it, that it's also smaller. And as I said, I I wanted to make one landscape and the other portrait, and I didn't. I don't think I'm focused. I recently booked another trip, a cruise for myself, my husband, and my mom for a week at the end of March and beginning of April, and we're gonna celebrate their birthdays. Hers is on the 21st of March, and his is the 9th of April. So we'll kind of be traveling in between and celebrating. And it's gonna be our very first cruise for the three of us. I mean, I worked for cruise ships for 3 years before, but I never actually traveled as a guest. So that's going to be my first experience, and theirs as well. We're going to travel along the coast of Brazil. I am so excited, you folks. I am so, so, so excited. I absolutely cannot focus. I have ADHD. So I already struggle doing the voiceover for my videos, but right now it's an absolute nightmare because I can't stop thinking about this trip. I do apologize if I am distracted. I'm always distracted. That's just how my brain works. But now it's so much worse. So please forgive me and please bear with me. For this card, I will probably definitely add some flowers. My mother in law, I'm going to send it to her, I believe. Well, I hope if I finish it on time. But I'm going to add some flowers and probably some special messages on the inner panel, and then my personal message on the inside for me and my husband. If anyone from my Irish family is watching to this video, I love you guys. I miss you all. Mother's Day is earlier in Ireland than here in Brazil. In Ireland, it's in March, and here in Brazil, it's always the second Sunday of May. So I usually don't make Mother's Day cards this earlier. I'm making this one for my mother-in-law. But as I said before, you can decorate this card however you want and use it for this design, this idea for any kind of occasion. I find that most people really love interactive designs. I have a full playlist on the ones I've taught before. I always group them together over there if you want to see and get some more ideas. The other thing I really wanted to tell you on this video is you might not be aware of this, but I started my channel exactly a year ago, and so far we have, as of the moment of me recording this voiceover, we have 1,908 subscribers. I will share a tiny secret with you. Every time I see that someone else subscribed, I squeak very loudly for the disgust of my husband and my family. I also usually do a tiny dance, so I do celebrate each one of you. I do appreciate each one of you. I might not see who each one of you are, but I really, really treasure you being here. I wouldn't be here without you. I am so happy and thankful for all of this. I never expected it. So I don't take you for granted. I have made a mistake. I first stamped my sentiment in the wrong orientation, like I said before, and then I realized that I needed it upside down, so I stamped it on the other end. You're going to remember that we're not going to need that whole strip for the mechanism, so I can just cut off the one that is wrong. No one will see it, no one will know. And my mechanism is almost ready. You saw me testing it before. I'm testing again now. And this time I am actually gonna measure how long I need that leftover tab to be. It's the one where the stamp is in the previous orientation. So I'm just marking it. I'm gonna trace the line with my empty pen and just cut it off with the scissors. I'm not even using the paper trimmer. I'm just freehand cutting it. And that's going to be the exact length of my smaller panel. In this case, the other one was a bit shorter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. As long as it covers at least half of your smaller card panel, I think it would be all right. I chose my strip to be very wide, one because I had the white strips left over in my stash, but also because I thought maybe that would make the mechanism a bit stronger, a bit sturdier, but you don't need to. You can use it like probably a 1-inch strip. might be enough. For this one, I'm going to use a double-sided dry adhesive on the border. You could do that instead. That's the kind of main difference between this card and the other one. The other one, I just use glue. As I said, I don't really trust using dry adhesive on interactive mechanisms because I've had bad experiences before. But I'm showing you here that you can use it and it might be okay. This one, it actually worked. It didn't come off later. So it might be okay. It might be this one time that I had a problem and now I'm traumatized for life. You can see that I keep checking everything. I bring it all back, I assemble it, I center it, and I calculate where things need to go. I'm always eyeballing, so I'm not actually measuring it with a ruler, but now I'm just gonna add that bigger panel to the top, make sure that it's centered along my card, and then I'm gonna do the same thing as I did before. I'm gonna tape the front panel in place and turn it around and add glue to the areas around my tab. It's exactly the same card as we did before. In my head, I was doing this one differently, and instead of having the tab to the bottom, I will have it to the right. And I don't know why I didn't realize that I did it wrong until the video was already filmed. That's my level of attention, I guess. Now I just need to glue it all down, give it a second to dry, and the card is ready. One thing that I need your help, folks, is I'm thinking of making a March Meet the Maker video and give you some background, talk about myself. If this is something you're interested in finding more about me, please let me know. If it's not interesting, I probably won't do it. I am very, very shy in terms of camera. I already hate hearing my own voice when I do the voiceovers. So if it's not interesting, I don't think I will do it. But I thought that maybe if you're interested, I could do it. Let me know on the comments below, please. I will be very thankful if you can give me some feedback. For this one, I also added a panel on the inside so the colors can match. And I'm gonna add a few stickers. These are from Altenew. They came with my stamp wheel and the colors match, so I thought I would use some of them. But as I said, off camera, I will probably add some flowers before I send them over to my dear mother-in-law. I might try to include the other orientation that I forgot in one of my upcoming videos, and I do have a few of them planned for the upcoming holidays, probably Mother's Day, more Mother's Day, Easter, spring, and St. Patrick's. So please keep an eye out for those ones if you're interested. And I will try to add a few interactive elements to keep it interesting, to keep it different. So even if you're not interested in those holidays, the videos might end up being interesting for you. I might actually include some videos for my cruise. They're like nautical themed or something like that. So keep an eye out for those ones as well. I don't know how much time I'm gonna have from now on, but I will try to post at least one video every week until I travel. My mom is coming over to redo her medical exams, so I have to follow her, give her a hand, but otherwise I do have a lot planned. These are the two cards I made. I hope you enjoy them. They're super fun. Have a nice week and happy crafting. Bye!